This is the 9th meeting of interpreting the Book of the Tao by Lao Tse. Me, Gabriel Raam, I have interpreted 9 verses, and now I'm in the 8 verses, and I'm on the 9th, and the interpretation is according to view of the 5th way. 9. Better to stop short than fill the brim. Over sharpen the blade, and the edge will soon blunt. Amass a store of gold and jade, and no one can protect it. Claim wealth and titles, and disaster will follow. Retire when the work is done. This is the way to heaven, the way of heaven. I've got here another translation, and I want to read it as well because I think it sheds light. Fill your bowl to the brim, and it will spill. Keep sharpening your knife, and it will blunt. Chase after money and security, and your heart... Chase after money and security, and your heart will never unclench. Care about people's approval, and you will be their prisoner. Do your work, then step back. The only path to serenity. Which do you think is more easy to interpret? What do you feel?
The second.
Yeah, I feel the second as well. It's simple language.
Yes.
So I will deal with the second, although the other 8 is the previous translation. But I feel that it's something I can put my teeth, also the 4th ones, into it. Do you make anything out of it? Or is it obscure?
Well, the second was a lot clearer.
Okay.
But it tells you... But what the feeling I have is not to do something compulsively.
Compulsively?
Yes. Don't over-sharpen the blade. Don't fill your cup to...
It's not to do with compulsion, it's to do more with perfection.
It's perfection, okay. I never thought of it as...
Over effort.
Yes. But it is not to do things to the extreme. Go a little bit less.
Yeah, go a little bit less. Okay, I think this is basically what it is saying. I think the most important sentence is, do your work, then step back. This is the path to serenity. In the other translation, it's heaven. So it's interesting that he is saying, do your work, then step back. He's not saying, don't do your work to the full. He's saying, do your work, and then step back. So, let's examine this sentence. What is the alternative? Then, do your work, and then step back.
Then publish it and say,
no. Well,
this is my work, I did it. And
let's look at it in the simplest way. Do your work, then step back. The opposite of that, do your work and don't step back.
Yes.
Which means you stay with your work. You are glad at it, you are proud of it, you're trying to perfect it. But it's saying when you reach a certain goal, leave your goal and go back upon your goal. This is what he is saying. So let's see what it actually means to neglect your achievement and to go back to where you were before you achieved it. Because you see, if he would say, don't reach perfection, stop before you get perfection, don't overdo it, we can understand that. Instead of doing 108%, do 100%. Instead of doing 10%, do 90%. Do 80%. But he's not saying that. He's saying something very interesting. He's saying, do 100% and then go back to 70%. That's what he's saying. He's saying, do your work, then step back, which is very difficult. See, he's got a sentence here, chase after money and security, and your heart will never unclench. So, let's take that thing about money and see how the last sentence, the sentence before last, do your work and then step back, applies. He's saying, chase after money and security. Okay, all of us chase after money and security. So he's saying, do your work. What does that mean? Do your work. Get money, get security, and then step back. What does that mean? You become a rich man, and then you are no longer a rich man. You go back upon being a rich man, and you just have a medium salary or average income, and you give up upon your security.
Maybe.
Is anyone able to do this? To actually get to success only to neglect success and to go back upon the success to where you were before you did the maximum effort to gain the success. See,
sounds insane.
But you see, this is what he's saying. Do your work, then step back. In Israel these days, there is a very highly publicized entertainer called Dudu Topaz, who used to be the king of rating, they used to call him. I think no one actually managed to come close to his rating in TV. 51% of the population watched his show. And then he didn't step back, but they stepped him back. And what happened to him was what happens to quite a lot of people who reach the top in the show business. They fall back. And he so much couldn't accept his bitter destiny, because he stayed a rich man. Mm-hmm. I just read today in newspaper that all in all, he's got 100 million Israeli shekels, if not dollars, I'm not sure, which he did. And he still was very famous and all the rest of it, but he wasn't at the top anymore. He couldn't live with it, and he went to beat people who didn't allow him, according to what he feels, to come back to the top. I'm mentioning it because I think that he is an extreme case that shows on what happens on average. People are not so disturbed as to do what he did, to actually attack people for not letting him come back, what he understood, not letting him come back to the top. But you see, this is the main thing about great tragedies. You get a hero, for example, Oedipus, who is actually killing his father and blinding his own eyes. I mean, people don't go killing their fathers and blinding their own eyes, but he's actually showing what actually could happen if people would go until the end. So that means that people who have been at the top and are forced to live it up live in absolute hell. Much greater hell than if you stop at 70% of the top and this is your best. Once you reach the top and you are forced to go back, it's unbearable. See, the people in a company who want to be chief manager, if they do not reach to be a chief manager, they still have the dream to be a chief manager and they stay. But if you've been a chief manager and then they said to you, okay, now you go back to the junior job that you had 3 years ago, and people who used to be under you are going to be your bosses. No one is going to survive it. And he's saying, do your work, then step back. That's the only path to serenity.
Yes.
Very cruel.
Do you think that he's reminding us maybe that achieving and all these things are not the most important thing?
No, I don't think so. You see, if he would, what he wants to do is to remind us that achieving all these things is not the important thing, then he will not be different than any religious preacher who's saying, you know, don't put all your effort in worldly things, in fame and success and money. Put your effort in God and He will pay you back. This is trivial. This is flat land. He is saying something much more intriguing, mysterious and powerful. He's not saying don't put all your efforts in worldly things. He's saying put all your efforts in worldly things. Please do. Reach the top and then give up. And then you've got the way to heaven. I think it's amazing. So let's see what he's saying here. Now that we understood the final sentence, let's see what he's recommending. What he's saying in the beginning, most of the sentences, he's saying it's not good to do the best and absolute and to stay there. He's saying what will happen to you if you reach your ultimate, if you reach the ultimate success. If you fill your bowl to the brim with whatever, sex, fame, whatever, admiration, happiness, pleasures, fill your bowl to the brim and it will spill. He's saying you can't get what you want. You can't have it all and keep it. Keep sharpening your knife and it will blunt. If you reach the top in wanting to be a fighter and wanting to stab things, you can't get it. So he's saying in the beginning, you can't reach perfection. Something here will not allow you to reach perfection. Chase after money and security and your heart will never unclench, which means that the price that you pay being successful, secure and having money is that your heart will clench. It will be so tight it will never open. Care about people's approval and you will be their prisoner. If you want to be successful, you need to care about what the other people saying yes to you, and then you will become their prisoner. So he is actually saying no good to be at the top. It doesn't pay. But then he's contradicting himself. He's saying despite everything, do your work and then step back. So you see, you can understand this sentence by do your work is not get to perfection. Just do your work. But you can't understand it in this way. This will be a flat understanding, saying, listen, if you do the ultimate, it will spoil. So just do your work. Don't do the ultimate. But he's not saying that. He's saying, despite what I'm saying, that if you reach the top, things will spoil, I'm telling you, reach the top. Despite the fact that it will spoil. So here, it's a double mystery. He is saying, not only you should step back, because you see, if it's just do your work and not reach the top, why is he saying step back? From what? From just doing the work? You step back only if you reach the ultimate. Otherwise you've got nothing to step back from.
Yes.
So he is saying, no good to reach the top. And then he's saying, but reach the top. So you can get back from it. So he's saying something very paradoxical. He's saying, despite the fact that it's rotten to reach your ultimate in things because you can't keep it, I want you to reach your ultimate. For one reason, for one purpose, and that is
To step back.
so you can step back from it.
See, this is very weird because, well, now suppose I am junior in a company, and Lao Tse is telling me, go be the brand manager of all the company, just to return to be where I am on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And he's saying, you are now junior, go back to be the senior of the seniors, despite the fact that you can't really be the senior of the senior, because everyone will try to stab you in the back with a knife, and it's going to be horrible for you, but go there anyway, so you can go back to be a junior from this. I don't know anyone who managed to do that. It's true that the Hindu religion, people reach a certain age and then they give up everything and they go to ask for money, but and food, and all they have is a robe upon them. But this is ritualistic.
Yes.
You are part of the group. You get the confirmation of the religion doing that.
Yes.
You are actually getting the reward and getting the absolute by the fact that you belong to a certain sect. But I don't think he means that. He means you in your personal life should reach the ultimate so you can say no to it. So what is he saying? You should come to be indifferent about getting out of this life the most and the best. That's what he's saying. Unless you come to be indifferent about getting the most and the best from life, heaven is close to you. Serenity, which is inner peace, is close to you. Which, according to him, is ultimate goals.
Yes.
Inner peace.
I wonder.
And the way to know that you are indifferent about the false gods that surround us, which he is mentioning them. Knife, money, people's approval,
Security.
possessions, fill your bowl to the brim. All these are false gods. Unless you become indifferent to them, you will not have inner peace. And the way to make sure that you're indifferent is by getting there and then giving it up.
You can't.
Because if you can't get there and then give it up, you will never be sure that you are really indifferent about it.
Now you answered to my question, what I wanted to ask.
Which is really amazing. I think he is putting a rough, you say?
Barrier.
Not a barrier. You know, when you jump
Oh.
height, then he is putting
Standard.
a standard that most people can't go over it. And he is saying, if you want the way of the Tao, you should have inner peace. And if you can't have inner peace, this book is not for you. This book is for... And inner peace you will only get if you shoot all the false heads in the god. Sorry, all the false gods in the head.
Yes. Now, Gabriel, I want to ask you, there is always this maybe paradigm, or maybe movies or books about people who started very humble and that success got them drunk with power and everything, and they forgot who they were and where they came from, and then everything exploded in their face. Is this what he's saying?
No. He's not talking about people who start humble. He's saying, I know you've got ego, and I know that you want to screw the world and to milk out of it all the honey it's got. Good. I don't want you humble. I want your ego to rule you. Go with it, man. Screw the world. And when you get there, go back. He's saying, do your work, then step back. The only path to serenity. How cruel he is. And with it, not with it, but part of it is he doesn't trust human beings to be able not to let their ego desires rule them. And he's putting to them a cruel test. How will I know that you are indifferent about the false gods? By fulfilling your wishes and desires and then stepping back from it.
I think that's the hardest thing, because it's a lot easier not to fulfill your desires from the beginning. But after you give them something and then go against
And he is
them.
very cruel here, because he spends 2/3 of the verse saying how stupid it is to reach the ultimate. You shouldn't get there because there's no point. Then he's saying, okay, get there, and then step back. To test how indifferent you are. So, the Book of the Tao is a very tough training manual. That's one way to look at it. For people who want to live on the highest level possible for human beings. He's got the path 2,500 years ago. And he's saying not everyone can get there. You need the determination, and the fighting spirit, and the conviction and the desperation that if you won't get it, you won't get there. He's putting on one scale all what this world can offer, on the other scale, inner peace.
What I wanted to tell you is that I can't listen to what you say without comparing it to nowadays religions and the way they show you and how they tell you to act.
Just be good. Be good. That's what they tell you. Don't. It's not important to be rich. And if you're rich, give some of it and continue to be rich, so you will.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very flat. Here is a real challenge to the ego. This is actually an ego-killing mechanism. What is this verse? He's not giving a chance to the ego. Because the ego can settle with not getting to the top. It can't settle with getting to the top and giving it up. Because what is very natural to the ego is possession. We possess what we think we need to get as our right, having an ego. And not getting there is easy. Getting there and giving it up.
I think he's saying something more powerful. He's saying, if you want to test your ego, don't test it against failure, test it against success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if this is not heard, I will say it. What you're saying, which is very true, if you want to test your ego, don't test it against failure, test it against success.
After you succeed something, then you can...
No, he's saying this. He's saying you should reach success. You should overcome failure. So after you reach success, you could go voluntarily back to failure.
Amazing.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you, you cruel man. Thank you very much.